Welcome to Sustainable Packaging with Cory Connors. I'm very excited for my guest today, Ms. Sarah Barnes, who is the founder and host and CEO times two. How are you, Sarah?
I'm doing really well, thanks. Hi, Cory. It's so great to be here.
I love your show, Let's Talk Supply Chain, and I'm honored to have you on our show. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here, and thank you so much.
Well, tell us about your background. How did you get into this media world that you've developed?
Well, that's a funny and long story, but I won't do the long version. I'll do the short version. So
Sure.
I say that supply chain's in my blood because I can remember talking about logistics and supply chain at the dinner table for as long as I can remember.
Oh
My
boy.
dad owned a freight forwarding company, which is like a travel agent for freight or for products moving by air, ocean, truck. And from the time that I was 16, I wanted to take over that business. I ended up in operations for 8 years. Right out of high school, I ended up as reception. So I did a lot of my schooling by correspondence while also getting hands-on experience. And so I spent 8 years in operations, 8 years in sales, and then I was director of sales and marketing. And I was like, we need to be able to get our brand story out there. So how are we going to do this in like a unique way? And at the time, like back in 2016, which really isn't that long ago,
Yeah.
marketing and supply chain was really stuffy. And so I was like, well, if Lewis Howes can have his own podcast, why can't Sarah Barnes Humphrey? And that's how it started. I asked a guy from my customs department to come and join me as a co-host. And tongue in cheek, to push the boundaries of the industry, we called it Two Babes Talk Supply Chain.
I love that. That's a
Mhm.
great name.
Right.
And
Well, it was
yeah.
until January 2018, I started the Woman in Supply Chain series. And by April 2018, no women wanted to come on a show called Two Babes Talk Supply Chain because I had lost my co-host.
Oh no.
That's why the rebrand.
Well, the current name is appropriate and it's perfect. So well done.
Thank you.
You have a very long list of titles. How do you squeeze all this into a day? You must have lots of help.
I do have a lot of help. I have
Yeah.
a really, really, really good team for Let's Talk Supply Chain, doing a variety of different things because obviously we've got a lot of moving part to what we do because we do video content and audio content, and now we're partnering on live stream shows and all sorts of stuff. So, there's a lot going on, and I do have an incredible team behind me.
So you partner on live stream shows. Tell us about that. So a brand comes to you and they want to be famous on LinkedIn. How do you set it up?
Well, that's not really their goal. Their
Oh.
goal is that they want to be able to talk about what's happening within their company. They want to be able to reach, supply chain professionals and let them know what's going on with tech, let them know how they're thinking about diversity and inclusion, sustainability, all sorts of things. And they want a
Right.
place to be able to do that outside of, maybe the following that they have built themselves. And so they come to us and they partner with Let's Talk Supply Chain, and they're going to be hosting their own live shows with us so we can hear more from the brands. I mean, at the end of the day, this industry is really about relationships. It's about community, it's about communication, it's about the people, right? Like that's what
Right.
really makes this industry so good. And so, if you're not hearing from your partners or you're not hearing from some of the brands in the industry and what they're doing, there's kind of those gaps and those disconnects. And so we want to bring that all together and bridge those gaps.
Well done. And as the host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, are you finding the people that you're talking to being more interested in sustainable packaging?
I think that they are interested in sustainability as a whole. And at the beginning of September, I released a LinkedIn learning course called The Fundamentals of Sustainable Supply Chains. And it's one of their most requested courses because people are obviously understanding the importance of sustainability.
Yeah.
They're understanding even more how supply chain plays a hand and plays a big role in being able to push that needle forward.
Right.
And so they want to know where to start. They want to know, what does that look like? What do I need? What are the conversations I need to be having? How do I need to be thinking about this? Because that's really, really where to start. But, Frances Edmonds, she's head of sustainability for Dell. She'll always say, starting today is almost too late. We needed to start yesterday. And
Yeah,
so everybody really just needs to get started. And packaging is a great way to get started.
I agree.
It's really an easy way to get started and sort of work backwards.
100%. And what a lot of people don't understand about sustainable packaging is that it can actually save you a fortune,
Yeah.
because you're making your boxes smaller, you're right sizing your packaging. You're going to save a ton of money on shipping. If every box is 20% smaller, that's a lot less freight, right?
Well, and just think about the mindset, right? Like you're empowering your employees to pick the right size box for the order or the right size packaging, whatever that needs to look like. And you're empowering them to make those decisions because you're giving them the right tools that they need to be able to do that.
Yeah. Can you give us a one or two tidbits from that? Kind of tease us a little bit?
Yeah, well, we talk about collaboration a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, my saying is collaboration is the future of business. And so we
Yeah.
talk about the importance of collaboration when it comes to sustainability, right? One of the other areas to take a look at is procurement and really working with your suppliers and finding out what their bandwidth is, right? Finding out what their sustainability goals are, what they're talking about internally, collaborating with them to make it easier maybe for them to work with you on a sustainability strategy. And so that's, one of the key ways to really get started. The other one is really just to get started and taking a look at the sustainable development goals and which ones resonate the most with you, which ones are the low hanging fruit that you can put into action right away and
Right.
just get started.
I love that. Don't wait. Just do something today that's
Yeah.
going to affect positive change in your supply chain to make it more sustainable, whether that's rerouting a truck line, whether that's changing your corrugated secondary packaging or your tertiary packaging or whatever the case may be. There are small changes that can make major effects. I agree.
Yeah, and I think, we get overwhelmed by thinking that we have to go big or do, humongous things. I mean, right now with so much disruption in supply chain, supply chain professionals are going through a lot and they're
Yeah.
like, "Really? I have to take on this mountain of sustainability?" No, no, you don't. You just need to start small.
They're just, most of the people I talk to on a day-to-day basis are just worried about literally getting packaging right
Yes,
now due to
true.
supply chain issues. So when I start to talk to them about sustainability and taking the next step, sometimes they just plug their ears and say, "Listen, kid, I don't want to hear about that right now. Just get me my darn boxes. We'll talk about that next year." And I
Right.
say, "Well, what if we could do both right now? And what if it would help?" So then it's worth the conversation. It's worth
Yeah,
taking
true.
taking a step back, saying, okay, what are we really doing and why?
Hmm.
Important. I love that. Collaboration is the future of business. Totally agree. I was on the panel a couple weeks ago, and they said, who should be involved with sustainable packaging decisions? And I said, everybody.
Hmm.
And I think that's the right answer. I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been talking a lot over the last couple of years about everybody getting involved with supply chain, marketing,
Yep.
sales, customer experience. I mean, it touches every single piece of an organization.
Yeah. A few months ago, we had one of our best and most favorite drivers leave our division, and we were devastated because all the customers loved him,
Right.
and he was so personable. And I called my boss and his boss and her boss, and I said, "Listen, we have to make this a priority. Find someone great." And they did. They found us another great person to step in. It's such a key element, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's going on next for you guys? You said you have a big, before the interview started, you said you have a big 2022
We do.
planned. Tell us about it.
We got lots going on. So, the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast is one. I have a
Yep.
second podcast called Blended, and it's really focused on diversity and inclusion. So, I
Nice.
bring 5 different people from different walks of life together to talk about diversity and inclusion topics. And it's making an impact because we really create safe spaces for everybody to share authentically. And like, it's just been magic. And so we wanted to take that to the next level. And so we started the Blended Pledge, which is the nonprofit arm. And we're focusing on making a visual impact on digital stages and in-person stages, as well as audiences at industry conferences. And one of the biggest barriers to that is travel and tickets. And so we just launched our GoFundMe campaign for individuals to donate. And then we're going to have corporate sponsorships as well. And so we're going to provide scholarships for diverse businesses to be able to get on digital stages, for diverse voices to get onto actual stages, in-person stages. And so we can see more diversity in audiences. So that's a really, really big focus for us in 2022. And then, obviously with Let's Talk Supply Chain, we're going to be streaming so much content, so much really, really great supply chain content on a variety of different topics. And so I encourage everybody to go to our Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page and subscribe, because, we're going to be doing it live, but then they're all going to be living on the YouTube channel afterwards.
YouTube is a really cool channel, and it's fun to go on there and see all the content available. It's overwhelming, but I think when you find a great page like yours, it's fun to see all the different episodes and everything.
Yeah, and we've got different people. Like, there's going to be so many different hosts and companies and professionals talking about a variety of different things from different perspectives. And that's really what we want, right? We want to be able to watch something that, you might get a couple of different perspectives, but then you can sort of wade through that and figure it out of your path forward.
I could definitely see someone for your blended mission, somebody like an Alaska Airlines, or, would be a good sponsor. So if you're listening, Alaska Airlines, sponsor my friend Sarah's mission to get diverse people out in the world to share their wisdom.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you can use that soundbite on your TikTok.
Well, so I'm just about to get certified women-owned business. Good. So we actually are now covered under supplier diversity spend, and we're going to have access to, bigger sponsors to be able to do that corporate sponsorship for the Blended Pledge. So we're excited.
That's awesome. So coming back to the sustainable packaging, if you don't mind, what do you think is the future of sustainable packaging? Do you think we can get to reusable packaging? Do you think we just need to focus on recyclable packaging? What's the answer?
I definitely think it's going to be a hybrid of sort of everything. It depends on what the product is. It depends on how well we educate the end consumer on the packaging. Right. I think one of my biggest takeaways from you and Sarah Scudder and the information that's out there about sustainable packaging is really the education and the ease of the future of whatever that packaging is that you just received. And, an easy way for a consumer to take a look at it and be like, oh, so my option is 1, recycling by doing this, and this. 2, reusing it, thinking about it in a different way, right? Whatever that is, I don't know. It depends, like I said, on the product, but being able to give them those choices and making it easy for them to do it is really going to be the key for the future.
100%. Only 38% of Americans have access to recycling right now, curbside.
See?
And that's not okay. That number needs to be 83% or 100% as soon as possible.
But knowing your consumer, knowing where they are, knowing if they have access to recyclable facilities is a huge thing when it comes to your packaging. Because if they don't have access, but they have choices and they can reuse it rather than it going into the garbage, and you've given them the resource to be able to do that, that changes the game for everybody. And then you don't have to rely on politics and government to be able to recycle.
Yeah, make it a strong enough box to be used a dozen times by the consumer. I 100% support that. Reusing boxes or all kinds of packaging is critical to the future of sustainability and packaging. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Yeah, and like you said, education of the consumer. the QR code to tell them, hey, here's 5 things you could do with this packaging.
Yeah, and
Here's,
make it fun.
yeah, yeah,
Make it fun. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have access to all of this equipment. It doesn't have to be professional.
yeah.
It just needs to be authentic, right? It
Right.
just needs to be authentic and be like, hey guys, we're really, worried about the environment. And so this is our way of giving back and guiding you so you can help make an impact one piece of packaging at a time.
Yes. Yeah, I love the different companies that are printing things on the insides of boxes, like
Yeah.
so kids can draw on them. Disney was doing that with bought some pull-ups for my daughter, and she spent hours coloring the inside of the corrugated chipper box and used it and wouldn't let us throw it away for weeks. So or recycle it. I'm sorry. So it's amazing what else can be created from a box. Or any packaging, really.
And the creativity and the innovation that can come from something like that, right? You don't know what that little seed could have, the impact that it could have in like 10 years. No idea.
I like you at the kitchen table talk about this stuff all the time. So my kids are hopefully future sustainable packaging advocates. But that we'll see what happens there. But well, thank you so much. Tell us how to get a hold of you. What's the best way? You have a very diverse, platform here. What's the easiest way for people to get a hold of you?
Couple of ways. So the website is letstalksupplychain.com. We do a ton on LinkedIn. So connect with me, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey on LinkedIn, or follow the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. And then we're also giving our supply chain dictionary away for free, but you've got to be on Instagram. So if you follow Let's Talk Supply Chain on Instagram and then DM us talk with the number 1, it's 107 pages of supply chain words and definitions and acronyms. So go and get yours today.
That's amazing. And I'll put all that in the show notes. So if you didn't hear what she said, we'll have that available for you. I'd like to thank Landsberg Aurora for sponsoring this podcast. And if you're listening, please take a minute to review it and share it with your friends. Thank you so much, Sarah. Your wisdom is incredible and impressive.
Thanks for having me, Cory, and congratulations to you on such a successful show. So I am just super excited to be here.
Someday I hope to be as good as you at this, and it's an exciting venture to be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you.